All right, hey everybody. So, making this video for the owners of this horse here. This is Jayne, and hopefully you can hear me okay. It's a little bit windy. I'm recording off my AirPods, still having trouble figuring out a good recording system that's working out here. But anyway, so hopefully this all comes out. So Jayne has been here. This is now the fourth day that I've been working on her, and she's 7, and she's already pretty good at most things. She's definitely not like a start from scratch horse, not unhandled or anything like that. But I think she has some holes in her training, like most horses that come into training with me. And so we're starting off super basic with her, but I expect to be progressing through everything fairly quickly. Um, but like every horse, I just have her in this 30 by 30-foot training pen and just starting off with total basics kind of stuff. Now she's easily catchable when it's her idea, which is most of the time, but some of the time it's not her idea. And like most things with her, if it's her idea, she does it pretty well. Um, but things that are not her ideas, sometimes she's not real happy about. And it's that I would say about 25% of the time when things either aren't her idea, hey, Buzz Lita, or when things aren't her idea or she's put in a situation that she's not super comfortable with, she doesn't really quite have the mental capabilities of dealing with that. And so that's going to be my job over this month. And I only have her for 30 days. So we'll just see what we can get done. But I've talked about this a lot in other videos, but I'll just reiterate it again that I'm not in a rush with a horse like her or any horse just to take him in and get on him and go right to working under saddle because I really feel like most of the stuff that she's going to need work on under saddle can be fixed or at least much better prepared for on the ground. And I'll talk through a lot of what I mean as I'm working her in here. And hopefully I'll take her into the indoor today, but going to start off by catching her. And so everything I do with the horse is going to be super methodical, right? Everything has a purpose from the time I walk in the gate. Even catching her has a purpose and a methodology to it. I'm not just coming in here hoping I can get her caught and take her into the indoor and then the training starts. The training starts now. So I'm going to approach her as if she's going to be really good. If she is, I'll put out my hand, let her sniff my hand, kind of say hello, right? Be nice. And then if she seems like she's in a good mental space, then I'll go ahead and catch her and then we'll head into the indoor. That's if things go well. If things don't go well, and to give history on the last 2 days, so 2 days ago, she got caught very easily. Yesterday, she decided she didn't want to get caught, probably because she realized she had to work quite a bit 2 days ago. And so she's like, screw this, I'm not getting caught. So she decided to turn her butt away and leave. Well, that's why I keep them in these nice 30-foot training pens. She can't go very far, and immediately we're into a training iteration. But that's something that this horse's owners have told me is that she does sometimes want to just turn and leave. So like I said, it's probably about 75% of the time good, about 25% of the time, um, it's not her idea and she doesn't want to do it. So we're just going to see which one it is today. Okay, so as soon as I'll go and work her. So it was her idea and she was doing really good until it wasn't, right? Well, as soon as I started undoing this halter, she's like, no, I think I'm gone. So as soon as she decides to leave, I'm not going to get mad at her, but I am going to direct her feet the way I want her to go. Now, what you'll notice today that I really like is she's turning towards me. Kind of looks a little bit gimpy on the hard ground, um, but it's her choice to be working right now, not mine. She could have easily gotten caught, and we'd go in where it's nice and soft. So what I really like is yesterday when we did some work like this, she was turning away from me for the first probably 10 minutes or so, and then she figured out to turn towards me. From that little bit of training, go ahead and ask her to stop here. From that little bit of training 2 days ago, or yes, that was yesterday. Uh, today she's turned towards me every single time. She hasn't even tried to turn away, and I really like that. This horse is actually a really quick learner, and you can see that through that right there. So I'll just start over. So no no hard feelings. Just I wanted to catch her and make it a pretty nice day. Now see right there, she thinks about leaving, but she goes, "Oh, you know what? Leaving doesn't seem like a very good idea because the last couple times I left, once today and a couple times yesterday, she had to go work a whole lot." So right there, she made a conscious decision not to turn around and leave. And the reward she gets for it is she doesn't have to do a bunch of work. Now, of course, I'm going to take her inside and we're going to do some work, but I'm not making her run laps out here like she was before. So make the wrong thing hard, right thing easy. The wrong thing was to turn and leave. She had to do work. The right thing is to allow herself to get caught. My idea, and we made that easy. Now, if you had her out in a pasture or you were trying to catch her in a much larger pen, maybe a pen that has different places she could run to or whatever, then that wouldn't really work right there because you'd have to just rely on her willingness to be caught to get her caught. Otherwise, she can just turn and leave, right? So that's why I don't work on this stuff out in the pasture in another type of pen. I work on it in a nice, for me, it's a 30 foot by 30 foot, um, basically like a round pen. It's square, but it works just like a round pen. All right, she's got a little reward from getting caught. She's realized that's better than not getting caught. And I'm not gonna do that multiple times today, but over the 30 days that I have her, if we do that once a day for 30 days, she should figure it out. But that's the kind of thing that for the owners watching this, need to continue to be diligent with her because 30 days just isn't that much. You know, you can build some habits in 30 days, but you can destroy the good things from 30 days a lot. You know, 60, 90 days of going back to bad habits will destroy 30 days of good habits really easily. So, all right, I'm going to kill the camera and take it inside, and we'll restart inside the round pen. Okay, so we've got her Jane here inside now. Just finished catching her out there, made that video. Hopefully that came out, and you just finished watching that video. So I've just led her in here to the indoor. Haven't done any work with her or anything beyond what you saw out there. And so now I'm just going to start a normal work session with her. And the big question that I'm asking myself as I go through every groundwork session with every horse, but particularly what we're doing today with her is the question is the way her body movements are working, is the way her brain is working, is the way she's responding to pressure, lead rope, maybe a flag, whatever I'm going to use, are those responses the same ones I would want when I'm under saddle? And if they're not, if there's tension in her body, if her feet aren't moving correctly, if her brain is getting spooked by things or whatever, then that means there's more work to do. If we get through a whole groundwork session and it's like, yeah, I could have been on her back the entire time, it would have been great. Well, then we should get on her back, right? So that's what this groundwork thing is all about. And so as I'm going through this, I'm going to be talking a lot of, I'm going to be pointing out a lot of things where I'm like, okay, do you see that tension? Or, okay, I like how she moved her body this way, or, mental state, whatever it is. And that's what we're relating it back to is this the horse I would want to be riding? I'm going to ask her to back up here a little bit. Again, ooh, that's much better. Again, everything is training. So I was a little too close to the camera. So instead of just turning and walking over here, which might not have been much training value, decided, hey, I think I'll work on something that I worked on yesterday or the day before. It's probably the day before, which is backing and being soft in her head and neck. So I worked on being able to come up here, and I'm not asking her to back up yet. Right there, I was pulling down on that halter, asking her to be able to release that head and neck. And then after releasing the head and neck, so there's a little fight there. So I'm not asking her to to move anywhere right now. She's just kind of throwing her head around and getting mad. That's the same madness she's going to get. There we go. When you pull on the snaffle and try to be doing things with the bridle or whatever. Um, so again, relating it all back to, is this the horse I want to ride under saddle? I need to be able to come up here, take control of her face. There we go. put her face where I want it to be, in this case, without moving her feet. Now she started moving her feet on her own, so I'm just going to take this opportunity to send her the other direction. Okay, now is that the horse we'd want to have under saddle? Probably not. Okay. Well, what was wrong about it? Well, first she moved her feet without us asking to, so that indicates that she has some anxiety and some, oh my gosh, I got to go somewhere, I got to do something. Then we said, hey, you moved over here, so I needed you to do the opposite. And she got all bound up, kind of did that half rear thing, wasn't soft at all, couldn't go off pressure, couldn't go, you know, go with the flow, like go where I'm pushing you. So that indicates multiple problems that we would have under saddle, right? All right, now I've been talking instead of training, so she's kind of pulling as she goes around here. She's kind of pulling on this lead rope every once in a while. It's not terrible. It's much better than it's been the last few days, but her body's kind of falling in on top of me and her head's sticking to the outside a little bit. So I'm just going to ask her to go the other way. Good. She was a little dramatic about it, but her feet were nice and quick to that pull. Ask her to go the other direction. So if her feet are soft, her face will be soft. So I can sit here and pull on her face all day, and it may or may not make her face soft. But if I get her feet soft right here, her face will eventually soften up. And her face is being way softer today than it's been the last 3 days of work. So she's improving very quickly. You can see when I pick up on this, she is giving to it. There's still some bumping, but she is giving to it. And you can also tell, like, you can see from her withers to her head is quite elevated, right? Her head's quite a bit up in the air. And that's not really something I am working on, but it's an indication, right? And so, do I want to be riding a horse whose head is stuck up in the air? No, not really. Not because it's not pretty, but because it's an indication that the horse has tension through its back, through its neck. It's not going to perform the way I want it to perform like that. Little stickiness in her feet there. Like that to be a little softer. So if you remember back before we started going around and around, why did we start moving? The only reason I sent her to work is that she walked off on her own, right? So now I'm just going to give her an opportunity to stand, to stop. Wasn't great. She didn't quite face up, so I'm going to go ahead and send her the other direction and give her an opportunity to stop. So, nope, she didn't take the opportunity, so I'm going to send her the other direction. Oh, that was a lot of drama. Oh, pulling against the lead rope. Is that what we would want to ride under saddle? No. Okay. Lot of drama, right? So what I think is happening here is it's not that she doesn't know what to do, right? Because we've been doing this exercise now for a few minutes and she was doing actually pretty good, like not terrible. But she did okay. And then she kind of got to the point where she was fed up with it. And she's like, okay, screw this. I don't want to do this anymore. This isn't my idea anymore. And and then the attitude came out. So this is attitude, not, oh, I don't understand or I'm incapable, or it's not any of those things. It's just, I don't want to. It's not my idea. So that's going to be the theme, I think, for this whole month is taking her through these situations where she needs to do something that's not her idea, and how does she mentally become okay with it. And you can see now she's not super happy about it, but she's pretty okay with it, right? She's faced up, so she disengaged that hind end and got soft through her whole side a lot more, faced up. She's focused on me now, fairly relaxed, not completely relaxed, right? She hasn't licked and chewed, but her head's quite a bit lower than it was, and she's not feeling a need to walk off. um she just seems nice and present. I mean, there's quite a bit of flies on her legs, and she's not even stomping at the flies. She's just very like, here. So so now we'll just wait and see what happens. And there's a lick and a chew. Beautiful. That lick and chew is she could have gone a little longer with it. She kind of stopped, but that lick and chew happened way faster than it's happened the last couple days. I've been having to wait quite a long time for licks and chews. So that was excellent. Okay. Now, if I recall, I think I was asking her to back up softly, give in the neck when I pull down on the halter, and then back off of that when she ran around me. And so I sent her the other way. So I'm going to go all the way back to what I was working on, which is also good because you can see she's creeping up into my space. So me working on backing up is going to be proactively doing the opposite of what she's doing wrong right now. Now remember, I'm not asking her to back up here, so I'm going to drag her back forward. I don't want me coming up here and taking a hold of her to mean automatically back up, right? That's not the backup cue. I should be able to walk up here. I should be able to walk from here to here without her really moving her body that much. So you notice when I walked up here, she felt the need to walk forward, but I didn't pull on this rope. I intentionally kept this loose, kept slack in it, and before she felt the need to walk up. Good. There we go. Now I should be able to control her head without her feet moving. There we go. Now I'm going to add the backup cue, which is going to be just bumping on her chest a little bit. And your backup cue could be whatever you want. But for me, that's what I like. So I'm just going to add a little pressure in the backwards, and she backs up nicely. Good. Now, if you notice, her hind end is starting to swing around me a little bit. She didn't actually back up in a perfectly straight line. She kind of backed up in an angle. And I'm not really going to do anything about it, but I am going to work on disengaging that hind end. So I'm going to come up here and kind of push this hind end around. Now, notice if you need to back up that video, or you can kind of see it right there again, too. Whenever I put some pressure on that hind end and she has to elevate her loins here and pick up this hind foot and step over, watch what happens in her head and neck. Her head and neck braced up in order to do that. So that tells you when you're under saddle and maybe something goes wrong and you need to be able to bend her around to a stop and have her loosen up and step around, is that going to work? Is it going to make her get softer and come to a stop and relax? Or is that bending to a stop going to make her brace up and get tenser? And you can see from how that worked just there, it's going to make her brace up and get tenser. And if she gets tenser through that, then that's just going to escalate whatever problem. If she's spooking from something silly and you try to bend her to a stop, but bending her to a stop makes her even more tense and even more anxious, then you're just compounding the problem. So again, is it a horse you want to be riding? Not yet. So that's what we're working on. So I'm going to ask for this disengage again. And she's a little dull right there. And then when she gets not dull and she's actually moving, then her head flies up in the air. There we go. It's a little bit better. Okay, so now I'm going to ask for that back up again and see if now that I've disengaged that hind end a few times, see if she's backs a little bit straighter for me. Oh, that's not what I was asking for. So a little too responsive there. And I'm not going to get mad at that because that was actual confusion right there, right? That was her going, "What do you need? What do you need? I'm here I can do whatever you need me to do. What do you need me to do?" Right? And I like that try. Now it was the wrong action. I wasn't asking her to spin around, right? But that's a communication thing. I'm going to be super, super patient with communication errors versus attitude errors like earlier. Not going to be as patient with that. Her head came down really nice. I'm going to ask her to back. And I'm kind of watching that hind end. Yeah, she's backing a little straighter. I like it. And then I'll just release. That's it. That's the whole ask for that. Be soft in your head and neck, and then also engage her body and actually back up. That was really good. So give her a little bit of reward right here. And then I think I'm going to do some more. I think what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to have her go around me But I'm going to keep working on something I worked on a lot yesterday. Yeah, I think it was yesterday, which was I had the lead rope real short and I was asking her to walk, but be real soft and be stepping up through her hind end as she walks around me. And I want her to accept a little bit of pressure on her so that she walks a little faster and adds some energy without actually breaking into a trot. And if she breaks into a trot, it's okay, but I'm just going to add or pull on the lead rope a little bit and bring her back down to a walk and add some energy. And basically, we want a collected walk, is a bit what we're going for. So you'll kind of see if that doesn't make sense, you'll see as I'm doing it. So I'm sending her on a fairly short lead rope. Now look how high her neck just went up. Look how tense everything got, right? So this is why I'm doing this, and she's trotting, right? So this is why I'm doing this walk exercise. So I'm pulling on the lead rope until she comes down to a walk right there. I'm just gonna very subtly add some pressure. And she remembers this well from yesterday. I like it. And what I'm really looking for, what I would love to see right there, her head and neck came down a little bit. That was good. Right there, she kind of stops. So that's too slow. See, and then when I add that pressure, she pushes into a trot. I'm not asking for a trot. Just asking for her to yield her body away from me a little bit. And what I would love is to be able to pull back on this halter and lead rope right there and have her, if my hand is the front of her nose and face, forehead, I want her to start coming to the vertical or even behind the vertical a little bit off of this. So right there, she's like sticking her nose out in the air, right? Want her to loosen that head and neck and start to collect up a little bit. There we go. A big part of doing this exercise is she's advanced enough that she doesn't really need just like go, stop, go, stop, go, stop all the time in order to really stimulate her brain and ask her to do something that's a little outside her comfort zone. This exercise is a little more nuanced and it's really asking more of her body, which she both needs. It's a good thing. And it's going to stimulate her mind a little bit so she doesn't think this is so stupid. I'm smarter than all this. I don't need all this, right? Instead, she's going to think, holy crap, I like this is complicated stuff. I've got to configure 4 feet and shoulders and hips and rib cage and neck and head. Like she needs to kind of think, wow, I need to pay attention in these training sessions. I'm putting just a little back pressure on this halter and just trying to get some softness, some collection through from her nose all the way to her feet. It's a little bit better. And it's going to kind of come in waves, right? She's going to get soft and then she's going to get stiff again. And then she's going to get soft and she's going to get stiff again. That's just how horses work. That's okay. Um, I just want the good parts to come along more often than the bad parts. You see, I'm starting to be able to put quite a bit of pressure on her right here, and she's not breaking into a trot. She's staying in that walk, and if you watch her feet, she's getting a lot more deliberate with where she places her feet, like boo, 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 instead of just kind of blah, spaz all over the place. There we go. All right, give her a little bit of rest here because that's a lot of it's basically like doing a side crunch, right? That whole time she's engaging these interior ab muscles and you can see she's actually kind of starting to breathe a little bit. So it's a good workout for her and good mental exercise. There's a lick and a chew. Beautiful. You see, this is a much bigger lick and a chew. I was hoping she'd actually rub her nose on her leg there. But her head's coming down, bigger lick and chew. That's all the benefits that you get by doing that side crunch. Um, Softening, driving up kind of exercise. So we'll give her a second and then I'm going to do it on the other side. You can see I was nice and slow about the way I sent her, but there was a lot of consternation in her mind about what to do. again, that's showing a lot of try, right? She wasn't like, "Oh, screw you, I don't want to do it." She's like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. What do you want me to do?" So I'm gonna be very patient with that because that's the try that I want to keep, but she doesn't need to be quite so dramatic about it. Okay, so she's trotting. She's pretty stiff in her head and neck, so I'm getting pretty short on this lead rope, and I'm putting back pressure on it. There she comes to the walk. Little more back pressure because she's kind of walking through it a little much. There we go. Good. There, her hip and belly kind of were falling in on top of me, and I was able to just walk a little forward. You probably didn't even notice it in the camera, and she stepped up off of that. I like that. She's really starting to pay attention to my body language. Little close with her hip there. Good. I'm able to drive it off. Ideally, without her breaking into a trot, because the cue for trotting right now would be for me to take my left hand and be pointing out to my side, right? I'm not going to demonstrate because that would tell her to trot. But that would be the cue to trot. If I don't do that, any pressure I put on her is just, hey, add energy to what you're doing, or maybe push away from me, right? Get off of me a little bit. She's getting a little lazy in it there, so added some energy. It ends up with her trotting, but that's okay. Just putting some back pressure on the halter, bring her back to that walk. It's a little tight there. Let's see if we can get her back there. There we go. There. Okay, she ended up walking around me a little further than I would have liked her to. However, that's not what we were working on in that instance. What I was working on was, what I was talking about, the walk, the collected walking, let's call it. And so even though she didn't stop perfectly, I'm not gonna punish her for the stop and send her the other way and do all this stuff because that would have ruined the fact that I'm giving her the reward for walking collected nicely there. Even that right there was big. You notice she lost focus and she looked out that door, but then almost immediately she brought her focus back to me. It was like, "Oh, I know that's not the purpose what we're doing here. This is what we're doing here." That's today's the first day that she brought her focus back on her own that quickly. Other days she would have stayed locked on out there honestly until I sent her off and made her work. So that was really good. All right, she's creeping up in my space, so I'm just gonna go ahead and send her. We'll just work this walk thing. Actually, I'm not. I want to give her a break from that walk. I'm gonna go ahead and trot her out. Might actually do some loping, just because we've done so much like slowing down work, and I want to. The horses want to do the opposite of what we want them to do most of the time, right? There gets to be a point where they want to work with us and we're working together, but for a lot of the time, a horse wants to do the opposite of what we want it to do. So if all I do is try to get her to go slower and slower and slower, she's just going to want to go faster and faster and faster. So I want to make sure I balance out that slow work by telling her, hey, there's going to be days when we need to go fast. And you might want to save up your energy because going fast is a lot of work. So I'm going to go ahead and ask her to lope here. I like that she lopes off easily. Of course, she's in the wrong lead. I'm not too worried about that because that's a balance issue. And we already know there she got the correct lead. We already know from working in the pen, working in here, she has a really bad habit of turning that head to the outside and falling her shoulder in, right? I didn't ask you to stop. Thank you. And so we know her balance is bad, right? So there's no point in me like forcing her to try to pick up the correct lead and do all this stuff. Um, when I already know that I need to work on her balance in the other areas. Now, doing this loping will help her balance because she'll realize, man, it's really hard to counter canter these small circles. So I probably want to pick up that shoulder and get to the correct lead because it's easier, but I don't really care. That's her problem. My problem is you need to lope. Her problem is how she lopes. So some horse whinnied out there. She thought it was more important to whinny than doing what I'm asking her to do. So I got a little more forceful. That was the first time I really swung the rope at her. As long as she's thinking in here with me and trying, there, that was a pretty good little loping session. As long as she's thinking in here and trying, I'm gonna be real patient. But when she starts thinking out there, whinnying at other horses, and you're not doing what I'm telling you to do, yeah, we got problems. So you can see how she's loping here, right? Head stuck to the outside, off balance, almost sort of kind of wanting to buck a little bit, like not really, but her body's just not set up right. So again, is that the horse that you want to ride? And not the horse, right? But is that the state of the horse that you want to be riding? There we go. Go ahead and offer her that stop. Didn't take it quite as quickly as I would have liked to, and then you see when I asked her to go the other way, she wasn't set up at all for it. So she's just leaning out of it, right? So I might just work that stop from a lope a little bit. So what I would say is I kind of have her attention pretty good in the walk and the trot because she stops really nice and quick now. She didn't used to, but after 3, 4 days of working with her, she does. But when I ask her to, there we go. So that was the first time at the lope she caught that cue and said, "Yes, let me stop right now." Why did she say, "Let me stop right now"? Well, because every other time I've sent her the other direction, and whenever she kind of leaks out this way, it becomes a big problem because she's way over here and she needs to be over there. So this time she said, "Boom, let me stop because I'm going to have to go the other way." And I said, "No, you don't need to go the other way. You can just stand there." Hey, let's see what happens here. So that horse whinnied. And she looks out there, and then she brings her attention right back in here and says, "Ah, screw that. That horse isn't my problem. This, what we're doing right here, this is our problem." Good. And there's a lick and a chew and a big shake off. Now she decides to walk off. That's fine. We'll just go right back to work. So there was a lot of good right there, right? That was a lot of good. And then she couldn't quite hold it together, right? But that's okay. That was so much more good stuff than we've had before because before, when a horse whinnied like that, oh, she would have been mentally, she was gone. Right. Today, she's like, "Oh, horse whinnied? Nah, not my problem. This is my problem." And then things got the better of her, and she's like, "Oh, I got to walk off. I got to do something." That's fine. Right. Still in the beginning stages, but that was huge improvement. She's leaned way forward. Oh, she's going to lean back, maybe. If she, okay, I'll go and send her to work there. The big part of the problem with this horse is kind of that codependency issue, right? She feels like she needs to be standing on top of her human in order to feel safe. She's leaning on that rope a little bit and just not prepared to go the other way. So I just sent her the other way. So anytime she starts to creep in on you like that, send her off, send her off, send her off. Make her go to work, make her do something because she is a way too much on top of you kind of a horse. So what I'm feeling right now is she's kind of lost the plot and she's sticking her head to the outside a lot. And so what I'm doing is I'm not giving her any stop cue. I'm just pulling through and saying go the other direction. Very similar to what I was doing out there. Just saying bring those shoulders in. What I might also do is just take this and just back up. That was actually not bad. There was some tension on the rope for a second, but then she came to it pretty quickly. I might do quite a few of those. There we go. Good. I just sort of lost my balance and stepped backwards. and there was no pull on the rope whatsoever. She brought her shoulders in immediately. If I just step back here, oh, there's a little bit of a pull, but not too bad. At all times, I want her ready to step into the circle. If I need her to come through here, she needs to be ready to bring those shoulders through. Good. I didn't ask for anything there. That was just her. Um, so she does that frequently. So what I might do here is just kind of make the corners of this the wrong place and then offer her. No, I'll explain in a minute what I mean by that. Hard to explain while I'm doing it. Okay, we'll leave her there for a second. So what I mean by that is you can do this with a flag too if you have it, but for a horse like her that tends to kind of want to get out from your, let me see if I can get over here where the camera can see me. I want her right here, right? This slice is her slice. If I was turning around and leading this way, her slice is still that slice right there, right? For a horse like her that kind of just is like on the bubble and is like, I might run this way, I might run that way. If they do, either take your flag when they run this way and just be like, boom, not there. When they run this way, boom, not there. Boom, not there. Boom, not there. And then they'll figure out, oh, that's the good place. You're not telling them stand right here, right? That's the problem with so many people. The way you see them handling their horses, they're holding them, right at the buckle or right, and they're like, stand here, and the horse is dancing around and everything. It works much better if I just tell them, don't come over here, don't come over here, don't come over here, and eventually they're just like, oh, let me just stand here. This is the peaceful place, right? You can do it too when you're leading a horse. If they want to run up around you this way, boom, boom, right? So this slice is her comfort zone, right? And that's going to translate then to when I'm on her back, where is her comfort zone? Well, it's between the reins, it's between my feet, right? It's just like when I have that flag, it's a much smaller version. But if she's deviating, whether it's pushing a shoulder out or turning or whatever, I've got the rein and I've got that my foot be like, bump, nope, not there, bump, nope, not there. And it brings her in between our legs and between our reins, right? Which is what everybody wants from their horse. So that's what I was doing there. I don't have the flag, but I was just saying, hey, as soon as you get here, I'm going to make you turn and go that way, which is work. As soon as you get here, I'm going to make you turn and go that way, which is work. And eventually, I'm just going to give you the opportunity to rest there, which is what I gave her. And now she's chill again. So for a horse like her, I think that might be really beneficial. All right, what am I doing now? So I've been talking for a while and she hasn't licked and chewed. So I'm going to wait for a lick and chew from her. I like that she's very present. She's very um, heavy on her feet right now, right? She's not looking like she wants to creep up in my space or run around me this way, run around me that way. She's just present, but she hasn't licked and chewed, right? So she's kind of in that, I'm here, I'm ready, I can do whatever you need. She's focused, right? But she's not relaxed. So now we just want to wait until she comes to find that relaxation. We've we've done the hard work, which is put her into the scenario where she can find relaxation. Now we just want to wait on her to find it. I love that her head's low. I can pretty much see her withers over her the top of her head. She's very focused on me. Eyes are on me. She's she just looks like she's in a really good mental space right here. But I always talk about that like 1 to 10 range of emotions, right? One being super calm, totally chill. 10 being like the next thing before blowing up and bucking and running away, right? She's probably like a 4 or a 5 right now, right? She's focused, but she's not totally calm, right? And I think this has been the big problem with this horse and with many, many horses, not just her. Most horses get stuck in that 4 to 5 range. And at 4 or 5, they are safe, right? They're not blowing up, they're not bucking, they're usable. And so many horses hang out at maybe a 4 or a 5 of anxiety and never really learn to clear that all the way to zero. And not every horse is always going to be at a zero all the time, right? I mean, a horse that's in a doing a competition, a big reining run, a big down the fence run or something, they're not at a zero totally relaxed, right? But the point is, that horse has the mental capabilities of how to clear out those anxieties to get to zero. So when you put on the show environment, the cow that you're chasing, the running really fast, all these factors, yeah, maybe it brings that horse back up to a 4 or 5. But if we add those factors to her right now, she'd be at a 12, right? So we don't want to leave her at a 4 or 5. We want to wait for her to come all the way down to a zero. I love that I'm seeing her spin up a few times, right? There's a good lick and a chew. In that process, I saw her several times, even once while I was talking way earlier, she kind of looked around like, oh my gosh. And then once while we were waiting just now, she looked around. But every time she spun up, she spun herself back down. And now she's licked and chewed, bottom lips hanging down, very, very much more relaxed. And I'd say maybe she came down to a 3, maybe even a 2. Um, but really, once you get that nice big lick and chew, that's about as low as you're going to get, or as low as you need to get. I mean, could probably wait here for another lick and chew, but I'm probably not going to do that. So, um, the biggest thing that I'm loving here is that she's bringing herself back down instead of me having to bring her back down. So here again, she has spun herself up a little bit, right? She's like, "Oh my gosh, what's that over there? What's the wind blowing around?" Right? It's like, I can't be this calm. I'm going to get eaten by a bear if I'm this calm. And then she brought her focus back and said, "No, I don't need to worry about what's out there. What I need to worry about is what is right in front of me." Really like that. I'm not even sure how long I've been going. I might leave it there for that session. She's doing really good, and I want to reward that. Um, so I think what else I want to do with her. There are some big twitches and stuff she's doing. I think I'll do a little bit of lateral flexion, and in with that lateral flexion, I'm going to do some I'm just going to kind of run round robin through all this. So I'm going to do some desensitizing, throwing the rope over her back. I'm going to do probably some pushing her hips out of the way, so disengaging her hips. I'm going to do some lateral flexion. I'm going to do lateral flexion where I then walk backwards and ask her front end to follow me through. um yeah, that's probably, so let's start with some desensitizing here. I'm sure she's had this done a million times, so this is not new for her, but again, I try to make sure there's no holes anywhere in the horses I'm working with them. And you can see she didn't run away or anything, right? But she did get a little bit more tense in her muzzle. Her eyes are a little bit wider open. She's just a little bit more tense with me throwing this rope over. Not bad, but I would love to use this as a training opportunity to teach her the way this rope goes away is by relaxing. So if I see a sign of relaxation here, there was a twitch. I actually probably could have stopped there, but I bet she's going to do something more. There was a blink. I could have stopped there. I think that was a shake off it flies. A lot of blinking, looking around, but I'd really like to see her head and neck maybe come down just a little bit, just some relaxation through her neck, or even a lick and a chew or something. She's just a little bit shut down maybe right now, just kind of like zoned out, blah, 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 right? And I'd like to see her come back to reality a little bit and accept this. Right. So she came back to reality there, but not in a accepting, relaxing kind of way, more in a, uh-oh, what's going on kind of way. Looking at something out there. How does she choose to deal with this? Comes back. Good. I thought she was going to lick and chew right there because I saw these muscles in her cheek move right there. I thought she was about to lick and chew. You can tell she's definitely more tense and more kind of looky or watchy, whatever you want to call it, than she was before I started swinging this rope over her back, right? So this rope over her back, it's subtle, and you could easily be like, oh, she's totally fine with swinging the rope over her back, but she's really not if you really break it down. And if she's not okay with me swinging the rope over her back, how much less okay is she going to be with a full blown saddle and then me bouncing around up there as we trot around? So there we go. So what I liked about that, the reason I stopped there was that I don't like that she creeped up in my space, but again, that's not what we're working on. So I'm not going to, because this is her reward for relaxing, I'm not going to mess with that. What I liked there was that she had been looking over the top of my head out there. And that time she looked in here, but she looked at me. She was like present looking, not looking way out in the distance. And then when she came back from that, her head and neck loosened a little bit. There's a nice big lick and a chew. Good. So I'd like to do that process many multiple more times until when I'm swinging the rope over her back, she ends up licking and chewing with that. But what I did right there was a big uh, improvement over yesterday. And so I'm going to leave that part there. And I'm just going to ask her for some lateral flexion. And then I'm just going to back up and ask her front end to move with it. Good. I like that. Might just walk this way and just keep her front end moving a little bit. Right there. Anytime there's that tension right there, this is what right there, this is what this exercise is all about, is when the slack comes out of this lead rope, there, that was good. She actually led off that. And this is just like your trailer loading, right? I'm not pulling her straight because if she doesn't come with me, the more I walk, the greater that angle is, and the more she just gets pulled and has to go, right? But it starts out, this is why I love this exercise, because it starts out as a pretty forward pull. This is like a load the trailer kind of pull, right? And she's getting over and over, hey, anytime you put tension on that rope, just move your feet forward right there. See all that tension? Just move your feet forward and you can get off that tension. This is the exercise that's going to get your trailer loading working. That was better. It's about getting her lighter on her feet, getting her feet connected to this right here. There we go. I like that. That's a different body language than the horse we caught earlier, huh? Hi. Now, in the future, I'd like to get her to this mental state, but then put her to work and get her a little bit back to amped up and go back and forth for today because we're about out of time. And I'm just happy that she got to this mental state. So I'm going to put her up in this mental state and call it a day. So thanks for watching. Hope y'all enjoyed.